Are you recording? Yes. Okay, great. So today we're going to be going over basics of Figma and using a Figma library to make digital wireframes. Hooray! So I'm currently logged into Figma. I'm in our class organization. DW-S25 stands for Design for the Web, Spring 2025, in case you were wondering. And instead of creating a FigJam file this time, I'm going to go under create here and I'm going to say create a design file. And that is frozen. Thank you for saying something. So far you didn't miss anything. You spoke up in time. So I'm in Design for the Web, Spring 2025. I'm in my class files folder, which a lot of you seem to be making stuff into. You should put it into the microsite folder. The class files is for me to put my stuff so you guys can find it easier. It's all good though. I can forgive you. But I think you can move them. Like, can I just? Yeah, I can just plop them over there. Get out of here. Cirque de soup. Kick rocks. Go to the microsite folder where you belong.
Do you want us to create a new microsite?
No, like you can all have yours in the microsite folder. I think that's fine. But the class files, I didn't really clearly lay that out. That my intention is for that to be where I put the files I work on, so that way you guys can find them and refer to them more easily. But it is all good. So I'm going to go to create. I'm in my class files. Maybe I need to name it like the Shauna zone or something. I don't know. I'm going to make a design file and not a FigJam board. Remember last time we made a FigJam board? That's like the whiteboarding software in Figma where you make your site maps and stuff. But I'm actually going to be building user interface designs. So I'm going to make a design file. And I see you all continue to make files in the class files thing. They're just popping up untitled, untitled, untitled. Oh, dang. But yeah, you should move them into the microsite folder. Anyways, now I've entered this delightful void and it left also. That's crazy. What? Hello? Where did my Figma design file go? Let's say I want to see design files. There's my library. Hello? Which one of these is mine? Edited 17 days ago. Oh my God. 1 second. Family pooped. Do not eat that. That's his new toxic trait. He tries to eat it. I'm like, why would you? You know what? Sometimes in life, you just gotta stay humble. It's real it's nice and firm. We're all good. That was really something, Stanley. Thank you for that. Okay. Everyone's making something in Old Library today. Okay, so I'm going to try again to create a design file. I don't know why it took me back out of it before. So when you create a design file in Figma, I'm going to try zooming in so this is actually visible. Hello? No, Figma will just not let me zoom in on its interface. I'm a bit of a hater for that one. And the other thing I'm going to do is turn off the lights right in front of the projector. Yeah. And that means you cannot see it. Problem. Now you can see Figma in all of its glory. Okay, we're so back. Now, I am now in my beautiful Figma design file. It looks kind of like the void, perhaps a little daunting because you're like, what's happening here? So I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour of what's going on here. First off, a good thing to do when you arrive in a brand new, fresh off the press Figma file is to give it a name. You can do that by clicking on its file name, which is probably called Untitled, and name it something to do with your website. So I'm going to carry on and go off of the wireframe sketch I did last time. So I'll call mine Roll HV. And then because I'm in a shared folder, I want to be able to find my thing faster. I'm just going to call it my name after it. So now I have a unique name for my project. So when I go back to Figma, I can find it. Leaving things called untitled, it's not a good habit to form. So up here is just like basic information about your file. That little F is like a little menu you can use to go back to like Figma main screen if you ever need to go back there. There is like a little like application menu here that you can use to get around, but there's a more easy way to do that. I need to move all the Zoom interface out of my way. Go away. Okay, great. And that's going to make it a little bit easier for me to find my way around. Okay, that helps. So in Figma, I got my little file menu. I got an area called pages, which I'm actually going to go ahead in here and make a page called wireframes, because I can actually stay in the same file for my whole project. Like I could have multiple versions of my wireframes, multiple versions of my designs. I can like put them on different pages in the same file. So that way I don't have to like keep going back to the Figma main menu when I'm working on the same exact project all the time. So I'm going to have a little wireframes page for myself. And within there, you also have a little layers panel, and that's going to be a lot like the layers panel that you use in like Photoshop or Illustrator. It'll look very familiar. You'll feel very at home. Over on the right-hand side, you have what I like to call the design panel. And depending on what object you have in the interface, it'll show you like what properties you can edit. It's a lot like the appearance panel in Illustrator, if you're familiar with that. But I do like that it adjusts to the context you need based off of what you have selected. So right now, there's nothing on my page, so it lets me actually edit my page. I can choose what the color of the background I work on is. Like that's just the workspace background. So you can set it to be whatever you want. It doesn't actually end up in your app interface at all. But it can be helpful depending on like if you're working on an app where all the screens are white and the background is white, it can be hard to tell where your screens are. So like picking something that has enough contrast can be quite helpful. So I'm just gonna pick that color and I'll start looking at our little toolbar, which is down on the bottom. So in our toolbar, we have first up our little cursor tool. You can choose whether you want to use it to move items. If you want to use the hand tool, that'll let you pan around the place. If you're on a laptop like me, you can actually quite quickly switch between the two by just holding down your space bar. It'll turn it into the hand that'll let you pan around. I'm going to show you what a frame is really quick, which is a lot like an artboard in any other program you've used before. So like just back to the thing with the move tool, I can use it to move my frame around. I'm also just going to put something else over here. So like I can use it to independently move my shape. But then if I wanted to like just pan around and not pick anything up, I can hold down the space bar on my keyboard and that will let me pan around too. I can also just use 2 fingers on my touchpad and that will also work. It's overall a pretty intuitive application. Honestly, I find it like a little bit more simple than an Adobe program and more focused just on doing like user interface design. You look confused. Are you confused? Oh, you're still in FigJam. So back in the main part of Figma, you go to create a file and you say design file instead of FigJam file. No, you're all good. No, you're probably not the only person confused, which is why I said something. I find generally if one person is lost, multiple are. So if you go on the microsite, there you go, you can do design file. And so it looks a bit different because Figma has. No, it is not. Yeah, no problem. And you weren't the only person. So I got my toolbar down on the bottom. So I got my layers and pages and like my file name on the left. I got my design panel on the right where I can configure visual stuff about something. And then down on the bottom, I got my tools panel where I can use to like add stuff to the screen. So I got my little cursor, let's move around. I got my frames tool, which lets me put frames on the screen. When I have a new frame I'm going to make, the design tool will populate. and it will let you actually go in here and you can pick a device to have the aspect ratio of. So like if you have an iPhone 16 as your phone, I highly recommend using the phone you have. It's not make or break or the end of the world or anything, but it helps. So like you can choose a phone device and it will put an artboard that is the dimensions of that phone's screen onto your display, which is quite helpful. So that one went to an iPhone 16. If you ever realize you put it to be the wrong size, you can click on the frame, either in the layer panel, you'll see it has shown up and it has like a little like hashtag type symbol next to it. I can click on its name in my like work area and that will select it too. So either select it here or here. And if I hit the drop down where frame is, I can actually change its size to a different device if I want to. So like in my case, I have this like random giant Android phone. So I might just opt for, is there anything that would align to it at all? Damn, people who run Figma are really cooked on iPhones. I did not realize that about them. Okay, well, let's just say iPhone 13 and 14. Sure. Because it's not that deep. It helps if it's the same as your phone, but if it's not, it'll figure it out. Because you can like, as you're working, pull it up on your phone and test it and like see it at scale, which is pretty helpful, especially when you get to the part where you're doing like your actual high fidelity designs. It's like help you pick your font sizes and everything appropriately. So like similar to Frame, now you're gonna see my design panels populating with a lot more options. I can choose its like X and Y position. I have the options to like align some stuff, flip some stuff around. I can set my opacity. I can set the corner radius on stuff. I can set the fill of my artboard, which I'm just going to leave white because I'm doing wireframes, but it's there as an option. Then there's some other options here that aren't currently turned on, but I can turn them on by hitting the plus sign, which will be a lot easier to demonstrate when I'm actually designing. Right now, I'm not worrying about that too much because I'm also going to be using my library that I made earlier. So to do this work, I need to go ahead and grab my, what is it called? I need to grab my sketch that I did last time. So I gotta go grab that. Give me one sec. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, don't patronize me. Copy link. I love having so many browser sessions. So if you remember, was that a week ago now that it was snowing?
Yeah, sir.
What's up? How?
Right here.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh.
He's like running in this. Did he escape from the text? So what the heck today? There it is. Let's put that back on him so he doesn't do it again. And I think I've stuff to put it on in the function, but so I will do that later. And you sign that post device to it. Oh,
Stanley's gonna be a rascal this semester. I'm trying to keep him in my sight this time, this leash on. Ask anybody who's graduated in the last 2 or 3 years, like, oh, what does Stanley do during class? They'll be like, he just sits on the floor and sleeps. Now he's just, yeah, you guys have put him in rascal mode. I don't know. He's a very complicated guy. I don't know. Oh, anyway, I'm gonna grab my sketch from last time. Life comes at you fast. I'm just gonna paste it over here so that I can refer to it while I work. Because I hashed out quite a bit last time. Wow, it's huge. I'm gonna scale it down so that I can look at it more easily. So basically what I'm going to be doing is just digitizing this wireframe sketch I did in the past. You're going to be doing this for all 4 of your pages. I'm just going to be doing it for 1. And I am going to use a library to do it. So I'm going to, in the, what do I want to call this? This like left like image layers pages area. There's an item that's currently selected that says file. Get out of here. Okay. And then next to it, there's a little button that says assets. So I'm going to click on assets. And then I'm going to see a little thing, little message here. It says no libraries here yet. And I'm going to see if my team currently has any libraries yet. And it might not, because I might not have turned it on. I might have to enable it. Let's see, teams. There it is. Okay, so in Design for the Web Spring 2025, I've made a library ahead of time. I prepared this earlier for the simple CSS library that we're using in the browser right now. So I'm going to add it to this file, and now it's going to show up in my assets panel. And what a library does is it has a bunch of like pre-made objects for you to use, so you don't have to make them all from scratch. So like, especially with a wireframe, like we're not really worrying about like colors or fonts or anything. We're not worrying about too much like the more granular visual design choices yet. So using like a wireframing library or a design system is a helpful way to like get stuff made pretty quickly without having to like do everything from scratch, like draw every rectangle and put a text box inside it to make a button, like so on and so forth. So I now have my library turned on. I'm in the assets panel, and I can now be in here, and I have a whole menu of things I can use. So like, I think I would like to have why do I have headings separate? I just have heading 1 in there. That's really random to me. Okay. So I can insert an instance of a heading 1, and this matches the styling of the heading 1 in simple CSS exactly. So I don't have to worry about doing any styling on it, and I can just double click into it and I can put my content there. So I got row HV, and I'm just going to tell that to fit to itself, and I'll plop it in the middle. I also need to do a logo. I don't think I have a component that's going to suffice for that in here. Looking through my options. There's some stuff for like tables and whatnot. Yeah, so for this, I'll just make my own symbol, because when you use the library, you don't have to only use the library. So in this case, I think for the placeholder for my logo, I'll just use like a star shape from the shapes panel, and I'll like put that up here. Maybe I'll rotate it a little bit. I'll just make it be similar in color, call it a day. Okay, cool. So what else do I need to add? Oh, I want to have a photo. So like for that, honestly, I might just say placeholder photo into Google image search. That's perfect. Great. Copy image. I don't need this open anymore. And so then in Figma, I can add an image. This is actually weird. I'm glad I'm showing this. By drawing a box. And then where you go to fill, you can click on fill and then click on image. And then I can paste it in there. And I'm just going to set it to tile so I can, nope, that's not actually what I wanted to do. I did want to set it to tile. Okay, word. They recently changed this so I can choose how big it is. I think can I also just paste an image directly? Yeah, but all it's doing is putting an image background on a rectangle. That's like an important thing to know, because then when you oh look there, that's much better. That lets you position it within the frame. Hello? What the? I love being so good at this. Why? There we go. Okay, that's truly strange. I'm gonna do a different thing, which is where I hold down Control, Command, Shift, and 4 on my keyboard, and then draw a box around what I want, and then it puts it on my pasteboard, because that had way too much white space around it. Right. I don't really even care that it's blurry. And then I can, if I go back to file, I have my layers panel again. I'm just gonna make sure I put it in the background. And then maybe I'll lower its opacity so I can see my other stuff a little bit easier. I'll take it down to like under appearance, I can decrease the transparency. So like, I know that's an image well enough. That'll do the job. I want to add a menu icon. I wonder if I included that in my library. I might not have. No, I did not. So I'm just gonna do that the old fashioned way. I'm gonna do a line. And then I can increase the thickness of my line by going to the design panel on the right-hand side where it says stroke. I can increase the number up to whatever I need it to be. And then I'm going to make there be 3 of those. And then I'm going to, so right now they're just showing up in my layer list as line, line, line. So I'm actually going to hit Command G on my keyboard and that's going to put them in a group. But then to make sure they're all lined up the way I want, I'm going to turn on this thing over here next to layout, and it's called auto layout. And that will give me a bunch of tools to be able to like choose how much stuff is spaced out without having to like move everything individually and like keep it in alignment and all that. And I'm just going to make sure my layer menu over here, I'm giving everything useful names. So I'm going to make sure I name my little menu icon menu. I'm going to change that star to be logo, and I'll call this like my image background. Everything okay back there? Any questions? No? Oh, Ava.
So basically.
So all the design work we do on this site, we're going to be doing mobile versions first. And like, so like ultimately you'll end up with mobile wireframes for all your pages, which you'll then turn into mobile designs. And then I only require you to actually do a desktop design for 1 page. Because it finds its way in the browsers. What I find a lot of the time, people start to, like, I find like once you establish a general design direction, you can kind of build on it when you're actually in the browser. But when people determine their design direction in desktop and don't think about how it's going to translate onto a smaller screen, they have to do subtractive thinking. But doing additive thinking is a lot easier. Like, oh, how do I make this fancier once you already have what you need done? Like a mobile interface is not going to break on desktop, but a desktop interface is going to fall apart on mobile. So we do everything mobile first. Yeah, we're doing both in tandem. Yes, digital version of your sketches.
This is the side of the screen that was more.
Hmm?
It was this frame that you just put in.
Yeah,
This should all be on the screen.
Yeah.
So that little part that you have the consider images would just be on the top of the screen. It's not like that you scroll it down.
oh, so this is something we'll get to later with CSS. Like this, you probably won't be able to replicate just yet in the browser, but background images on shapes in code is a thing like that. You do it with CSS. It's not something you do with HTML.
We're putting everything the same like frame size so that you scroll and
Oh no, you'll see me do it. I'm going to it's not all gonna fit. And I'm gonna go, see, it's a really good question because I get that question every year. Because as I work, like part of the reason why I picked a device is over here in Figma, there's this option to preview it on a device. And it will like put it in a little picture of a phone for you. And oh, look, I don't have my text on my screen, and you can scroll. And like what we'll ultimately get to do is we'll like actually design it, and we'll do what's called prototyping, where we like hot spot like we'll like highlight parts of the image that like if somebody taps on it, it'll show you a different image to prototype the experience that you'll actually get in the browser. Now, you might find with the wireframes, if you prototyped it, you'd be like, why, this is just a shittier version of my website. Because that is in fact what prototyping is. At face value, it is just a shittier version of your website that can't do as much. That's not interactive. It's just kind of like pretending to do it. But that has value, especially when you're doing like later on in life, you do more complicated things, like really interactive processes. It makes it possible to like show somebody what a process could be like without having to do all the coding for it. Or if like, let's say we're coming up with a new idea for a feature at work and all my engineers are working on something else, I can still like get a demo of it set up and get people to be like, okay, yeah, we should build that using Figma. Any other questions? How did I what? Oh, yep. So assets, you go over to assets. So like underneath the file name, you'll see two buttons. One says file, one says assets. And then you're going to click on, there'll be like a message there. It's like, hey, you want to add a team library? And you'll say add, but my button looks different because now I have a library here. And if it'll pop up like a little modal and then you'll say browse team libraries. And then down at the bottom, you'll see our team listed DW S25. You might not have all these other ones. These are from other times I've run this class. And yeah, you should see the simple CSS one there. Okay, good. I'm really glad to hear that because I've never been a Figma administrator before, like the person that made the library in the first place. I am a Figma administrator at work, but like the Traveler's Design System was there for like 7 years before I was. So I didn't have to set it up. It was already working. So I never had to like start one from scratch and be like, here you go. Cool. So I'm glad it's working and that it's showing up. That's good news. So basically from there, like I'm just working through my wireframes and adding stuff. In Figma, there are these things, they're called components. So like anytime you have something and you're going to use it more than once, it's a smart idea to turn it into a component. So like that's actually what the library is it's a bunch of pre-made Figma components that you can use. But you can also make your own components if the library doesn't have everything you need in it. So like I'm about to do 3 things in a row that are all an image and an H2, an image and an H2, an image and an H2. So I'm actually going to set up a component for that. And I'm going to show this as an image by having it be 100% opacity. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to my components and I'm going to grab a heading 2. Great. And what do I got in there? I got rinks. Why is there so much space on the top of this? Hello? You good?
Are you tied up too tight? I don't know. There you go. You good though? Okay, cool.
Shake it off. Okay. Cool. Oh, I think it has a space at the top to show the default styling for it to have space in the top. Interesting. Okay, so I got my heading, I got my image, and I know I'm going to need that 3 times, so I'm just going to make my own component for it. So I'm going to highlight those 2 things together. I'm going to do Command G to group them. So see they're showing up in the sidebar there. And I'm going to say, I get to name it whatever I want because it's my component. Page CTA, I don't know, page highlights. Great. And then to turn it into a component, I'm going to go over into the right-hand side of my screen. And there'll be a thing that says group kind of big. And then there's all these little buttons. And I'm after this one right here. That's the little diamond. It has like 4 little diamonds that make up a diamond. I'm going to click it. And if it works right, it should turn the box that's around my shape to be purple. And it should turn purple in the sidebar too. Okay, so see now it's purple. It's showing that it is a component. And what that'll mean is when I go to add my next one, I can go out of my library. And now there's another group here besides simple.css. There's one that says created in this file. And so there I see the component I just made and I can drag and drop it onto the screen. And even though I don't want it to say the same thing, it's okay. I use my component because I can edit my, this is called an instance of a component. So this is my original component and this is an instance. If I edit the text in an instance, it won't mess with the original. So this is going to be skate parks. And see, that doesn't mess with my original one. And then I'm going to put another one. And I'm going to call it trails. And that's very beautiful to me. Hooray. I'm going to use some of my alignment tools here, make sure they're all centered. But then if I decided later, another benefit of using components, if I was like, oh, I actually don't want this to be center aligned like that, that's actually gross. I hate it. I can go into here and I can tell it that I want my heading to go to the side. And you'll see it kicks all of them to the side for me. If I'm like, I want to go to the other side, it'll do it on all three. So that the benefit of using components is if you decide you want to edit the way that you're styling one and you want that style to get passed to every time you're doing it, you only have to do it once. You don't have to go through every single screen. Like imagine when you get to like a 30-page application that's being represented in Figma, instead of having to like go through all 30 screens and find every time you did something, you can just edit it once and it saves you a lot of time. But I actually do want it to be centered. I was just playing. So I got my first custom wireframe component there. Very exciting stuff. And then I wanted to have a map. And so for that, I'm just going to put a rectangle. I'm going to put a map icon on it because that's sufficient for my wireframe. I'm going to go into my shape tool and I guess it's set to line right now. I don't really know why, but in there, there's rectangle, line, arrow, ellipse, polygon, star, etc. I'm just going to get a rectangle and I'm going to put it there and oop, I ran out of space. So I'm going to make this taller. I'm going to click on the frame's name and then I can go to the bottom and I'll get like a little up and down arrow I can use to make my screen longer. And then this is gonna be the area I want to do my map. And then again, this is scrappy. I can just be like map icon in Google search. Find one I like. Gorgeous. Copy image. Perfect. I'll make that like 50% opacity so it's not like visually obtrusive. Maybe even less. But that'll be my map. And that's enough for me. And actually, like, the map point doesn't even look like a map point when it's too big. That's weird. Okay, so I got my items that I have there. I have the map, and then my footer didn't make it last time, so I still got to add that. And so my footer, I'll like make it a darker color, maybe. I'm not worrying too much about my colors. I'm just keeping this all grayscale. I'm not using any colors at all. And then in there, I had my logo. I might turn it white so I could still see it. Great. And then I might have some text. That's huge. So another thing that you noticed I had some of my heading elements as components. Heading elements also can just be stored as what are called text styles. So if you notice, I have text selected, so the text style panel has showed up. And I actually have in the library preset up text styles for all the HTML elements and like how they're styled in simple.css. So like, I probably want this to be like the size of, and they also have like the pixel sizes that they are written next to them. So I'll just kick this down to H5's pretty small. I'll do it to H4. You'll notice in there that sometimes it will have like H2 desktop as well as H2. Don't use the one that labeled desktop on your mobile designs, but later on, if you make a desktop design, you can switch your text styles that have desktop versions over to like see how the CSS library would want to scale them up. So I got my role HV, and then I think I wanted to do like my pages. So I'll do links. Great. I can choose, like, if you see my text box has like a lot of extra overhang on it. Over in the design panel, there's like a section called layout, and there's 3 icons under it, and they can choose how your text box gets sized. If it's one word by itself, auto width is great. If it's like this sort of situation where I have like a taller text box that has multiple lengths of things in it, I prefer using this one called auto height. And that way you don't have the extra space hanging off of it. And then also I think I'm going to change my text style to just use link. So I know that those are links. And I think I also over in my sketch included social media icons. So for that, I'll just put some circles. And maybe I'll put a heading over them that says find us online, which I didn't think of when I was doing my digital wireframes. And that's okay, because sometimes you think of things later. That's huge. Sure. And so then I got that there, and then we'll make that line up. We're not worrying too much about everything lining perfectly. We just don't want it to look crazy. And then I can go back over here and close that up. And now when I go to preview it, so this is an issue you will run into sometimes. You'll be like, this is showing up as being on the screen when I'm designing, but then when I go to look at the preview of it, it's gone. Like, what is that? What is happening is this item is not on my frame. And so what's getting shown here is what's on my frame. And right now in Figma, it's not on the frame. So like, if I actually go to look at the layers panel, I'll see it happening that like my home frame is here, but I still see that H1 sitting outside of it. And how I fix that is I just pick it up and drag it onto the home screen, and then it'll show up when I go back over here. Yay, there it is. And so now I can like scroll around. Oh, look, my map icon didn't make it either. Let's sort that out. Oh, look, let's see. So map icon didn't make it, and then that's not supposed to make it. So that's fine. So let me change the image 3 to be called map. I just double click on the layer name. That'll let me edit it. And I'll put that onto home as well. And maybe I'll even group the icon and the background together, so that way they're one object. Okay, cool. So that's my home. And now I can see everything and I can scroll around, and it's like kind of like using a little weird version of my web page. Exciting stuff. Does anyone have any questions on that? Making a digital wireframe. Cool. And like you might run into some, like with the simple CSS library that's there, you might find you use it a lot. You might find you make mostly your own components. But I would encourage you to name your layers. I encourage you to utilize groups. That's Command G. You guys know groups from using Adobe programs. They're your friend. And I also encourage you to use the library as much as possible, but also make your own components. Just give them good names so you know what they are. Like anytime you're going to ask yourself like, oh, am I going to use this again? Like, am I going to have more than one of this thing? Then I recommend you to use a component, because that'll also help you in that if you design your site to like repeatedly use the same layouts for certain kinds of content, it's going to make it a lot easier to build, because that's the way CSS works as well. Like CSS will look for things with similar markup and they'll look the same. So like that's a really common practice in the web, is like utilizing what's called systems thinking of like, how can I find similar patterns and make them look as similar as possible, because that also helps the user know they work the same way and do the same thing. But it also helps me in building it in that it's a lot less work because I don't have to individually style every single item. I get to be like, these are my types of items and I get to style them under one set of rules. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. I'm gonna check, see if there's any questions in the chat. Any questions from our friends who are joining us remotely? It's okay if you don't have questions, but feel free to write in the chat if you do. Let's make sure I covered everything I was supposed to. Refresh. We're doing Figma, high fidelity, wireframes, Figma demo. Yeah, okay. So rest of class, most of what I went over and more is in that Figma Learn link I put there. So like if you're trying to figure out how to do something or don't remember what I said to where to find something, that explore ideas section of Figma design is really helpful. And then if you're trying to learn more about libraries and how they work, you can definitely ask me questions, but also this guide to libraries in Figma is a great resource too. And so for the rest of class, we're going to be working on any of your assets from along the way that you're just not done with yet. If you're confused about anything, like this is a great time to ask questions. I'll just be walking around the room, stop by, give you feedback, help you out, help things make sense. Make sure that there's nothing you're stuck on that's holding you back from proceeding forward. And so you're going to continue trying to populate your content into your HTML markup and continue setting up the digital wireframes. Any questions? Okay, cool. I'm going to end the recording. Goodbye, recording. Like, comment, subscribe. Oh, I canceled it ending. Okay, let's try it again. Bye, recording.